Okay. Review number 1. Because I got another one coming in. It's probably going to be kind of short. This first album, I don't own it yet. I'd like to own it. I'd like to get it on vinyl, but, you know, such is life. This is for Hath or Hath. And it's spelled H-A-T-H. All That Was Promised. I presume Hath would be sort of like spelled like faith, like H-A-I-T-H, but this is H-A-T-H, so I'm going to say Hath. Hath are a New Jersey death metal band that was formed in 2014. Bassist, vocalist Greg Nottis, drummer AJ Viana, guitarist Peter Brown, and guitarist vocalist Frank Albanese. AJ Viana, I believe it's Viana or Ivana. And if you're wondering why I'm looking off to the side, because babbling incoherently like a twat like I normally do is not the smartest thing I've ever done. These guys basically set out to destroy everybody with their brand, their own brand of old school death metal. But on this record, and I just finished re-listening to it again just to make sure I had all the points. This is intertwined. It's old school death metal, but it's very intertwined with a lot of modern flair to it. And I think a lot of that has to do with the production, which I'll get to after. This completely assaults any and all senses without even thinking about it. But the good thing is that there's a lot of melody in this record that really sort of hits. It's like, hey, there we go. You know, 1 minute everything's just blasting away and fucking tremolo picking and just, and it's like, wait a minute, wait, what's that now? Where things kind of pull back and they have this sort of really, you know, that sort of not mellow death, because that's sometimes people can misconstrue that as being too light. Essentially, there's enough of that sort of mellow death, but the good side of mellow death where it doesn't make it sound whiny or cheesy or shitty, as I will say. The one thing about this record, it was engineered and mixed by AJ, produced by the band. Frank Albanese did all the lyrics. And the cover art, which as soon as I saw it, I says, that looks very familiar. It looks similar to this, because the same guy that did Hath's All That Was Promised did this. This is Adam Burke for Nightjar Illustrations. I've shown this a few times, and this is probably by far one of my favorite album covers I have in my collection, which is weird because I have a lot of favorites in here. But this sort of thing, if you look it up, or if you own it, you're gonna be like, yeah, fuck, that makes sense. And it's sort of got like this skull in the background, and there's, you know, it's got that sort of fiery sort of background. It's pretty fucking killer if you get the chance. If you haven't seen it, I suggest you Google it. So the main points that I will say with this here is that, so the two things that I noticed with a lot of the melody were tracks like Decollation and Kenosis. Those are the two that I really heard this the most. There are other tracks on here where there is that growling, the screaming, and there's even some of those, like I said, those amazing, clean, melodic vocals that, as I said, it's sort of, some people will say, oh, well, it's a sing scream, because it's technically what it is, but it's not too mellow to the point where it sounds like fucking whiny, like the last In Flames record. But we won't go about that. And they put out a new single, but that's here nor there. Obviously, when you're talking about death metal, and when you're talking about death metal from the New York, New Jersey, fucking Buffalo, the New England era, you're going to get a specific style of death metal. And there's another review that I'm doing for another band that, same sort of thing, but far more cheesy and brutal, but it's fucking perfect as well. I'll get to that in another review. Obviously, you're going to get blast beats. You're going to get the double kicks that are just fucking just blasting the absolute piss out of your senses. Hard driving riffs, very, very tight, very tight. The tremolo picking is also tight. There's a, like when you're listening, you're just expecting the fucking hand just be going tick, 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 tick. Not very many guys do it well, but these guys for in a band who's not really as big as the other bands from that area, it's as tight as those guys are better, to be fucking brutally honest. The screams, the gutturals, the amazing melodic cleans that are involved in this. Everything here is perfect. But not perfect enough to the point where it's like, oh, it's perfect and no other record's going to beat it. That's fucking impossible. The one thing that I absolutely must say about this record, it's mixed extremely well. AJ and the band really know how to write great death metal. He really knows how to fucking he really knows how to engineer everything and mix it to the point of fucking sheer perfection. When I listen to modern metal and modern death metal, or, you know, modern with that old school feel, that's what I want. I want to hear every single fucking instrument. That's what I want. That's what I want in this sort of newer style thing. And a lot of people are like, well, Raw is better. It is, to a point, and it depends on the band that's doing it. The thing about this is that the bass sits very, very nicely in the mixes. It sits with the low end of the guitars, and it has its moments. Like when I'm listening to certain songs, like you can hear these where they kind of pull back and make things a lot slower. But you know, these sort of really big accented notes, you can really hear the bass coming in through. When I do my reviews, I will state that I do use my patented wireless headphones. These things, like, they're a no-name shit sort of brand, but, you know, they sit nice, and I can flip on my noise canceling, so that will help to accent everything. It helps to accent certain bits, and that's what I want to hear. So, like, and even on these, like, super slower notes with the bass, it's so audible. Like, you can hear the distorted guitars, but you can also hear the bass going boom, 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 and you can hear each and every single note, which is absolutely fucking key. When I listen to death metal, because I mean I'm very picky about it, because I've heard so much good death metal and I've heard a lot of bad death metal, and these guys are not bad. So quickly to wrap this up, I don't want to make these reviews where I'm talking too fucking long and people are like, "Are you done talking yet?" Overall, holy fuck, I can barely talk today. I'm giving this a 4 out of 5. Simply because of the fact that there's almost nothing wrong here, except there is this sort of it almost sounds, there's a few tracks when you listen to it from top to bottom where it does sound like it's running together, but based on where these guys are from and what their objective is, it's not a bad thing. If it's one of these things where, I'll get into the next one, sounds like other bands sound like they run together. I only get that in a couple different tracks here. So really, it's not that bad. But yeah, excellent record, boys. Go out and get it. This was released back in March on the 4th. If that's what you're into, is that old school death metal with a bit of modern flair to it, I think you're going to enjoy this. So anyways, guys, thank you so very, very much for watching. I really appreciate it. And stay tuned for my next review. Cheers.